Hi, welcome to today's edition of my 100-day content challenge on the subject of love, relationship, and marriage, of course. So, on today's edition, I'll be talking about three compensatory behaviors that affect relationships. Three compensatory behaviors that affect relationships. But before I dive into the main gist, let me give you a side gist. So something happens to me, yeah. Anytime I engage in a fast, by the way, fasting is not my strength, but anytime I do engage in a fast and it's close to the time for me to break my fast, I always get into this unconsciously though. I get into this frantic desire of what I'm going to eat. I start to think, what am I going to have? I feel like at the moment I can consume a whole human being because of how hungry I am. You get. And sometimes I even eat something I'm not supposed to eat. They say don't break your fast with soft drinks, and all. Sometimes I cannot resist the temptation to quickly grab something, and it becomes, you know, unhealthy. It becomes counterproductive at the end of the day. So I said all of this to say that among humans, there is this tendency to want to overcompensate for a felt deprivation. There's the tendency to want to overcompensate for a felt void, for a felt need that was not met. Just like I gave you a gist about myself. I've stayed without food for a while, and my body's natural response is to immediately frenziedly crave food. I want to eat anything. I want to eat. I feel like at that moment I can consume a bowl of anything. So yeah, this also applies to human beings in a lot of ways that we might not be aware of. And today I'm talking about three ways overcompensating can impact relationships. First off, money. When people grow up in a not so pleasant environment, I mean, financially speaking, you grow up in a household where you didn't get to enjoy the good stuff of life. It can make somebody who is not careful to develop the tendency to become crazy, to become obsessive about material things, to become crazy about money. And then, worse off, it impacts your decision of a life partner. I know it's not a new subject. I mean, every day we see people who are in serious torture in their marriages because of making the singular decision of choosing a life partner based off of money, based off of the flashy stuff. So today I'm addressing it based on the fact of it being trying to compensate for a felt deprivation from your upbringing. I'm not saying it's such a bad thing to want a better life. I mean, it's a good thing for somebody to want to do better. As a matter of fact, we should all strive to do better than our parents, to be able to offer our children a better life than our parents did us. It should be everybody's goal. I'm talking about applying moderation. I'm talking about applying the balance to our pursuits in life. Of course, everybody wants a good life. If we had the choice, nobody would choose to have an unpleasant upbringing, an upbringing where lack was felt. You were so in close proximity with lack. You knew what lack was. I know if we're not careful, it can impact your approach to money, your approach to material things. This is why you hear people say, I cannot end up with a poor man. I cannot marry somebody who is not doing well. You get. Nobody is willing to extend grace to the other person because of that felt deprivation. By all means, you don't want to go through a life of suffering, which is beautiful. But you should not respond to it by trying to find a messiah in a partner. Funny enough, these days it applies to both males and females. Everybody wants an already made partner, somebody who is already established, which is good. I mean, we should all desire a valuable human being. Yes. But Money is not everything. Sorry if that sounds cliche, but yeah, you should not make your choice of a life partner based off of what the person has, monetarily speaking. This applies to both males and females. Yes, go for a valuable person, somebody who has drive, somebody who is willing to, go for the best, somebody who has goals and visions for their lives, not someone who is laid back, who doesn't have drive to life. But then, money, this is my personal opinion, money should never be a primary reason for choosing a life partner. Okay. Secondly, another way this manifests, when people do get into relationships, they tend to put pressure on their partners, to meet so and so demands. Not because, those things are necessary, but because they are trying to get back at life for all the things they felt they missed growing up. I think the best way to approach this thing is to first of all be aware that this is what you are dealing with, and then find a way to strike a balance. It is good to be motivated to attain success, to be accomplished in life, to have a good life. Beautiful. But what is your motivation for that? And are you the type that says, it doesn't matter the means, you don't care the means, you just want to achieve that end of having a pleasant life, a flashy life? Okay. Now, the next area where people manifest overcompensation is in terms of boundaries. Boundaries. So for some people, yeah, maybe in your past relationships or even growing up, you were used to being bullied. You were used to people walking all over you. You were used to people having their way. You were used to being silent. You don't have a voice in dealing with people, in your interactions with people. You've always felt like they were walking all over you. So people can respond to this by building a wall in their lives. People can become walled up. People can become closed off. They can become avoidant because they are trying to compensate for that felt deprivation. They felt, I've lost my voice. People have always had to walk over me. People never respected my boundaries. And their natural response is to become disagreeable. That is not your true self. Your true self is not the disagreeable woman or man that does not want to reach for compromise. If it's not your way, then we might as well forget about it. That is not you. That is you subconsciously responding to that felt deprivation. So, what is the way around this? My personal opinion, I've had to deal with this personally. You get. Growing up, my mom would always say, you don't have no in your dictionary. And that was me. I found it so difficult to say no. I didn't want people to get hurt because of my decision. I felt so long as I can do it, even at my own expense, I'm going to say yes. You get. And of course, I've had people abuse that side of me, that trait of mine. I've had people take advantage of that. And so at some point in my life, not so long ago, I started to learn about boundaries. I started to become informed. I actually started reading a book on boundaries and also getting information on the internet, and intentionally started working on my boundaries. You know what this does for you? When you are in control of your boundary, you don't just build up a wall to close off everyone and become a disagreeable person. When you have healthy boundaries, you are the one to determine how people treat you. You define your boundaries and you also enforce them. And you don't have to make a fuss about it. You just have to clearly state your boundaries. This is what I can take. This is what I cannot take. And if anybody is not willing to respect that, then we can't deal. You can actually develop healthy boundaries and deal with people, not build a wall around yourself where you become a disagreeable person. you're not willing to have conversations, or you block people off. You tend to have a wall around you. Interaction becomes difficult. You are isolated just because you don't want people to abuse your boundaries. You have had to deal with that so much, and now you have unconsciously built a defense mechanism around that, which is not a healthy one. If you have a defense or a protective mechanism for your boundaries that does not allow you to have healthy interactions, healthy relationships, that is not a good one. I read in a book that we should have breathable boundaries. That is, you are able to inhale good things, good attributes, and you're also able to exhale bad attributes or bad people. Not just have a walled up life where interacting with people becomes difficult. You can actually have healthy and wonderful relationships, because relationships are the crux of human existence. You cannot take away relationships from human existence. So now, speaking particularly about intimate relationships, if you have a boundary problem, it's going to affect, first of all, your openness to people, how well you receive people, how well you receive love, how well you receive interactions. And also, you are going to likely be a disagreeable person, and it will be difficult to actually have conversations with you and come to agreement, because you're already a defensive person. Before they say one or two, you're already standing fighting for your human right. You don't want to feel cheated. You're always defensive. And it makes interacting with you become difficult. Being in a relationship with you becomes hard work, becomes an assignment, becomes a chore. So yeah, if you are in that category, and you feel because of a felt deprivation, because in the past you have had people walk all over you, and now you are wrongly addressing that by building a wall around your emotions, around yourself, it's not way to live. Instead, learn about boundaries, learn about how to develop healthy boundaries, and also how to enforce them, how to communicate your boundaries clearly so people respect, or if they are not willing to, then you don't have to deal with them, rather than shutting off every person. Okay. The last point I'm going to talk about is how overcompensating plays in our relationships in the form of lack of emotional support, or when somebody has an emotional void in their hearts, in their lives, due to their upbringing. You grew up in an environment where love was absent, where emotion and care was absent. And it becomes a felt need, a soul felt need. And you become obsessive about emotional validation. You become obsessive about needing people to love you, needing attention, and all. I've seen people do that. I've seen people do that, and somebody in my audience may be in that category. So, how do you address this? That feeling of emptiness is valid. That void, that felt deprivation is valid. Okay? But what counts is how you respond to it, how you deal with it. First of all, you have to learn ways to create your own happiness. Your happiness does not have to depend on another human being. If you're not a Christian yet, I would encourage you to be one. Or if you have not given your life to Christ yet, I'll encourage you to do one. Because speaking from experience, that is the biggest source of joy anybody can have. That connection with your maker who loves you unconditionally. It's I cannot talk about it enough, but I think you should try. I recommend that you try Jesus and all the love that he has to offer. So yeah, apart from that, you also have to learn ways to be happy for yourself. If you put the weight of your happiness on a partner, it can be overbearing. It can be overbearing. You are going to overwhelm them with your neediness, and it's not healthy. They are going to soon get tired of you, and it can become a toxic place for your partner if you cannot do by yourself. You cannot do by yourself. You cannot be happy by yourself. You are going to become a burden for your partner, and it's not going to make for a healthy relationship. So, three things I've addressed in this video today: how people manifest overcompensation or compensatory behaviors is in your money relationship, obsessiveness toward money, also boundaries, having a world of life because you have experienced your boundaries disrespected in the past, and then emotional support, emotional void. The one size fits all approach to all these things is to first of all be aware that you have this challenge, and then seek knowledge, seek seek information, seek approaches to actually help you get over them. Then one important thing I will not fail to let you know is the power of self regulating, the power of applying your life to moderation. It's good to pursue material things as much as you can, work hard, do all you can within acceptable means to be wealthy, to have a comfortable life. But always know when to apply moderation. Let money not be what your life is fixated on. Let money not be the focus of your life. So you are so blinded by an obsession for money that you cannot think outside of money. There are actually people like that. Like everything has to be profitable. Life is like a profit and loss statement for them. So if there is no personal gain for them in it, they are not in. With that mindset, you're not going to have a healthy relationship, because challenging times will come where you actually have to sacrifice. Not when things go south, you are willing to walk away because you did not come to this life to suffer. Nobody did. So in conclusion, yeah, apply your life to moderation, and then actually learn to self regulate. Know yourself, know who you are, know the tendencies from your past, from your upbringing that can impact the way you respond to life, the way you respond to situations, and actually work on yourself and seek to do better, because it is healthy human beings with healthy mindsets that make a healthy relationship and a healthy marriage eventually. I hope you enjoyed this video, though I felt it has been a lengthy one, but I hope you had a good time. So until next time, take care, be good, be safe. Bye.